Okay. So, we're back after a very, very long break. Why do we take such a long break, Alice?
I don't know, because life gets busy.
I see. More like laziness. No, I'm kidding. What are we here to do?
We're here to do another anime tier list. A lot like the first one.
Yay.
Oh no, I don't have the tier list up. I can't remember our tiers. Can you remember our tiers?
No, and this is now bringing me tears. Okay, what is our tier list? We can find it. Let's find it. It's...
And then put on one eternity later.
So we have the tier list. And here is our tier list. So at the top we have wonderful. When it's the amazing anime and we just have to recommend it to anyone, we put it into the wonderful category.
Yes. And the second one is Painting the Roses Red, which is the animes that they're pretty good, but it's like they're just lacking that thing, you know. It's hard to put your finger on, but they're lacking something.
They're rose, but they're painted roses. They're still beautiful, but they're painted. The next is a handsome pig. Because even a pig can be handsome if you put some enough makeup on it. So these are the anime that are pretty okay, but they're not like, oh my god, it's the best animes I've ever seen. They're okay, they're good, but they could do with a bit more makeup.
I mean, it's alright, like, overrated as fuck.
Then we have Down the Rabbit Hole, and these are the anime that they started out okay and then they just got kind of bad, kind of fast, and it was like, okay, we're not that interested anymore. Someone probably will be, but we're not.
And then we have Off with Their Heads. The ones that just need to just not exist, need to be deleted, get cut off before they even grew any bigger. They are just not an anime worth watching, spending your time with.
And then finally we have the extra Who Are You tier, which is reserved for animes that we either don't remember that much, or, you know, like last time we put Naruto on it because it's a mainstream anime that we never got around to watching. So, you know, those animes where it's like we couldn't really finish it for some reason, there was just something about it, or it's just way too overrated, way too mainstream, way too long. It's not really capturing us at all.
Yeah, cool. So, the very first anime we will be starting with is the first horror anime I think I've seen. I don't know about you. It's called Another. So, it's about a boy named Koichi Sakakibara. I'm so bad with some Japanese name, apologies. Where he transferred to a school called Yomiyama Middle School, and he met this girl called Mei Misaki, and then there's something weird about the class that he's in. It's kind of cursed. You see students dying. Oh yeah, by the way, this video we can't promise no spoilers. So if you haven't seen any of these animes, which will be in the description below, just watch.
Spoiler! Weep, weep.
So yeah, we just say now that there might be some spoilers. We can't promise not to say any spoilers. So if you see the list below in the description, and then if you want to see them and don't want to be spoiled, go watch them first. So that's your warning. But yeah, this is another where a student would get killed, or someone related to this class would get killed, and so they need to find out this mystery of why people keep dying that's related to this class. Even like in one episode, the class teacher killed himself in front of his students. And then the class thought, oh, maybe it's related to the school, and they go to this resort and they all still keep dying there.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like this mysterious deaths like just surrounding this curse, and it has something to do with like some student dying way back and the class still pretending they were there or something, but now it's like they have to only have a certain amount of class members because of this curse. And if they have more, they have to pretend that one of the classmates doesn't exist for this curse to not hit them.
I think the premise is that there's someone actually in the class that is actually dead, and they don't know who it is, so they try to isolate one member of the class, thinking that by doing so they can release the curse. Some people felt it was May, so they blanked her, like made her feel like she doesn't exist.
Wasn't it because Koichi transferred to the school, which was like, it was like the first time the class had the number of students where everyone could exist. It was something like if there are a certain number of students, they have to pretend one of them doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And this year was like, they were that number where they didn't have to pretend or something, and then Koichi transferred, and then they were like, oh, we have to pretend one of us is not here. And then Mei volunteered or something.
She volunteered? I didn't know she volunteered. Wow.
I think so. I don't remember it very well. It's been a while.
It's been a while. But I remember it being very good, like the mysteriousness of who was the student that was dead, where are these curses actually coming from, how is it all related to Mei, Koichi, and the student who died years ago. There's like a relation between those three.
Yeah, it was it's a lot like Final Destination actually. It has that vibe where it's like, even though no one really cheated death, it's still like death is coming for you. It's gonna set up these perfect ways for you to die. Like it had a very Final Destination vibe.
Yeah, definitely. And it was my first horror anime.
I think my first was Higurashi.
Oh, I see. Wait, but did I watch Higurashi before? And I think I may have with you.
No, we watched another together first. It took me ages to introduce you to Higurashi because like I was aware it had these issues with like new viewers will be confused by it.
Okay, so going to our tier list.
I'm inclined to say Painting the Roses Red or A Handsome Pig because like I wouldn't call it wonderful. Like it still has these like flaws and like it's a really really beautiful art style for sure. It's really pretty but it still has some flaws and some of the deaths are kind of slapstick, so sometimes it takes you out of it.
Yeah, I think I agree between those two. It's like sometimes I feel like, oh, this is just getting long for the sake of getting long. Like I feel like they could have made this a lot shorter. But not super old, but like I think it came like in the 2010s. Yeah, it came out in 2012. I just feel like some of the episodes were, even though there's only 12 episodes, I just feel like something about them was just, oh, this feels a bit long. You know, they're just doing the same thing a bit over and repetitive. So
it also feels like they went way out of their way to make Mei like super mysterious and creepy. To like a misdirection kind of thing, and it's like I don't even mind misdirections, but there were points in the anime where I felt like, okay, they're trying a bit too hard to misdirect us.
I didn't feel that personally. I quite like the Mei being the misdirection. I've generally thought at some points Mei was the dead one. So, which one are we saying? Painting Roses Red or Handsome Pig?
I feel like it's more deserving than a Handsome Pig, so maybe Painting the Roses Red or between.
Yeah, let's put it between.
Okay, so we're putting it between, on the line, and Painting the Roses Red. That still says Painting the Roses Red, by the way.
So we're gonna keep that. It's gonna be. We're keeping that consistency. Okay, number 2.
Number 2 is Baccano, which is an anime I watched ages ago, and then I was like, I'm gonna introduce Cheshire to Baccano. And it's really well constructed in my opinion, where you follow multiple timelines, but it's set up so you don't really get confused about the multiple timelines, because it starts with this one guy, and I don't remember all the names because there are a lot of characters, but you don't feel overwhelmed by it. So that's one of the good points. But it starts with this one guy who's like the head of a newspaper, and he has an intern who wants to write about this mysterious like elixir and these people involved in it. And so this guy, he's like, oh, but where do you want to start? Do you want to start on the ship? Do you want to start on this train? Do you want to start with these gangs? And he says something like there are as many stories as the people who saw it, because he's talking about different viewpoints. So this one, it jumps between storylines and timelines without getting confusing, because it's already set us up from the start that this is what it's gonna do. So like it doesn't really have a chronological order as such, but you don't get annoyed with it. But yeah, making it as chronological as possible. In 1711 there's like this ship with a group of alchemists who have discovered it's like an elixir that gives them eternal life. Yeah. And it has this thing where if you touch someone with your hand and think you want to eat them, you will basically eat up their essence and all their knowledge. And so on this ship there is like this one really greedy guy that we see later, who is... I don't remember his name. Let me just find him. It must be Chillards. Yeah, Chillards. So there's this guy named Chillard, who was on this ship, and he became really greedy after getting eternal life. So he started going around eating pretty much everyone, but a few people survived. And then later he's in cahoots with some mafia, and he has made a deal to make he's making this elixir again, basically, with the knowledge he has, so he can give eternal life to people. And so, on his way to give it to the mafia, he gets attacked by Dallas and a gang that Dallas is with, and so he drops pretty much all the bottles except for a few that end up with random people who then drink it without knowing that they drank it. And so we just follow all the stories that they get involved in through time. And two of the characters are my absolute favorite because their names are Isaac and Media, and they're just running around being really, really carefree. And in the end, we see them in the 1960s, and they've been alive since like the 1800s. And then they're like, oh, don't you feel like we've been alive for a long time? And they're like, maybe we got reborn and found each other again. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. They're really fun.
Yeah. Is it Miria or Miriam? I remember.
It's Media.
Media. Okay,
Media. Isaac and Media. They're my favorite anime couple. They're so funny.
Yeah, they're my favorite in the show. It's pretty heavy going. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of timelines and characters, story arcs that get intertwined, but it's explained pretty well. I had to ask you every now and again, oh, wait, what's this going on? Is it this era, or is it whose storyline is this and who's that? Because there is a lot of characters. Like there's so many families, like Martillo family, the Camorrista family, and then people like Azia Miria, Russo family. So all these families, and just like, okay, who's family, who's the good guys, who's the bad guys? Are they all just semi-bad, semi-good? There's Jacuzzi Splot, who's like a polite gang leader, which was, I remember that was just weird. And
yeah, he's a bootlegger.
Yeah.
And his sidekick is also like a girlfriend named Niece Hollystone, and she's like one of my absolute favorite characters. She's so badass. Like she lost an eye and got burned when she was playing with explosives. Yeah. And now she's still like playing with explosives, and sometimes he just hides bombs in her eye socket. And it's like, okay, go off.
I was surprised with this. I think this was, I started watching anime heavily with you, so this was like the early 2010s. Yeah, when you introduced me, I was like, I never heard of Baccano, and I saw like, oh, it's got really good reviews. How come I never heard of it? Because at that time it's like Naruto, Bleach, things, One Piece, things of that nature. So I was like, oh, okay, it's not, and it's like, it's been really good.
Yeah, I think Baccano is in that weird. It's not exactly underground, but it's definitely not mainstream. It's like there are certain people who know about it, but the people who know about it really, really like it.
Yeah.
And I think also like it's really a clever idea that one of the main storylines that they present is, because this is what the intern really wants to write about. She wants to write about a train hijacking that happened where all these characters were kind of involved. And so that kind of becomes the main backdrop. This it's called the Flying Pussycat Doll or something. This this train, isn't it?
I don't think like it's Pussycat Doll. I think it's playing Pussycat something. I don't know if it was Doll.
Yeah, it's called something like Flying Pussycat. It's really fun. Where it just has this rumor of this train monster called Rail Tracer, and then one of the passengers just kind of become Rail Tracer, and it's just crazy because there are these two rival families trying to kill each other in there. Jacuzzi is somehow on board. Isaac and Media is somehow on board. This one kid called Cheslaw Mayer, who was on the original ship, is on board.
Yeah, the young boy. He gained the power, didn't he?
No, he didn't eat anyone, but basically he had a cross-dressing father who, like, after they got eternal life, he just started torturing him. And so when he's grown up, he's just all detached because there are these people just trying to kill him, and he's like, you know what, you can't do anything to me that's gonna hurt me, I don't care, I'm just gonna come back to life. And so this Rail Tracer person starts torturing him as well, and it's just horrible. Yeah, so he doesn't trust anyone.
Yeah, that was quite hard to watch. It's a flying pussyfoot.
Flying pussyfoot. It was flying pussy something. Yeah. And I think he actually ends up with one of those characters that accidentally drank the he's called Figaro or something. And him and some of the mafias he's with accidentally drank that elixir. So he just ends up going with them and kind of being a kid for eternity.
Poor guy.
Poor guy.
So where do we put Baccano?
I think it's really fun to rewatch Baccano. Like when you've watched it once and you're kind of like understanding more of the timeline, then when you watch it again, it feels like the more times you watch it, the more little details you find and see and notice. Like when I watched it with you, I was like, oh, I never noticed that this character was here at this point. That's kind of cool that they keep intertwining them so much, these people who drank the elixir. So I would say either Wonderful or Painting the Roses Red, because I feel like, especially, because usually with time loops, like Higurashi has a time loop, but that's not really established. It's like it's up to the viewer to figure it out. But here it gets established pretty quick, so it's not too confusing for a new viewer.
Yeah.
And it has like really good storylines, really good characters. And the art style is pretty good. And I love the opening theme to Baccano, that jazz music. It's called Guns N' Roses. It's amazing. So I would put it in Wonderful, I think.
Yeah. I remember it being good, but I think like so maybe if I watched it again, I'll probably like it even more. So for me, I initially thought Painted Roses Red, but it was a very good storyline, and I do recommend it to people, like because I was like, oh, again, it wasn't really talked about much, but it's a pretty good anime. I don't know if I'll go Wonderful though.
We can put it in the middle between.
Yeah, we can put it in the middle. Yeah, should we put that?
Yeah, between Wonderful and Painting the Roses Red.
Cool. Next up is Carole and Tuesday.
Yes. Carole and Tuesday. And Carole and Tuesday, I think a lot of people know Carole and Tuesday. It's on Netflix. I think it blew up a bit. And we watched it when it came on. Like, I think I watched 3 episodes, and then I was like, oh, come watch this with me. I think you'll like it, even though it's more slower paced than what we usually watch together. And it's just a show about these 2 girls living in the future who want to make music. And they live in a world where a lot of the music is made by AI to fit an algorithm, and they write their own songs, and that hits people in their feelings. And so they join this, it's the future's version of X Factor basically, where they join to be picked as artists who can get a record deal. And their main rival is
Angela Carpenter.
Yeah, Angela Carpenter, who's like, at first you're like, oh, she's a bit annoying, but you kind of come to like her. You kind of come to understand that, because she grew up with, I think, a transgender father, because she calls her mother, who just pushed her into the limelight from childhood. So she's always had acting jobs, and now music is the next big thing for her. So she's really being pushed and pushed and pushed. So she has this really strained relationship with her mom.
Yeah.
But and it makes you understand her, because I actually really like that they follow her a bit to understand her, because otherwise she would be easily seen as just like, oh, she's just this bratty girl who's just there to be an annoying villain. They make her more 3-dimensional than that, and they have all these funny characters. They have this DJ with silver hair who's like pretty narcissistic. He's all like, yeah, I'm the best. Like, he knows everything. And so it's just like, it's kind of a feel-good anime where it's like, yeah, follow your dreams and work hard. And spoiler alert, in this show, this talent show, Carole and Tuesday don't win. They come in second, which is like, oh, that's really cool to see that they don't win despite being good. But in the end, they still bring pretty much everyone they met throughout the anime together to sing in a theater, because they're protesting this really, like, they're protesting that basically in the future we live on Mars, and there are people from Earth living on Mars that the politicians want to send back to Earth when it's not really that safe, and they're really protesting that. And somehow, like, some of them are doing it through music, so some of the politicians want to outlaw music. And it's just like really cool, fun character cast. It's good music. Like some of the music on Spotify we listened to multiple times. Fun characters. Just all around fun characters. What do you think?
Yeah. So yeah, I liked Carole and Tuesday. It was a very fun anime. In the beginning I was like, oh, is this like it is a slice of life, but there's a bit more to it. It's not like generic slice of life. There's this idea of a competition. You're seeing these characters like being really underground and going viral and then becoming like superstars. And yeah, it's quite nice like to see that story arc, and the characters are really well thought out. Like, yeah, Angela Carpenter, you think she's like some snobby bitch, but she's actually being pushed by her air quotes mum to be in the spotlight since birth. And she had this like AI superhuman Tao to help her make really good singles. So it's kind of like, maybe I don't know if they talk about autotune, but she had a lot of help, whereas Carole and Tuesday are very much, what's the word where you say, like, it's not underground but very authentic. They just they did themselves, they they tried it out themselves. So a good storyline, and they all had good backstories. Like Carole, I think Carole is the orphan that from Earth, and she just came to this other planet. I forgot the name of the planet, to become like an aspiring musician. And Tuesday is the daughter of a politician, but she didn't want to be in that lifestyle of like elite, high class society. She wants to just play music, so she ran away from home. And then you had those other characters, like you had their manager who was just really, really funny. I think they Gus Goldman. And then you had the friend Roddy was funny. He's like the technician, but he was always like, things go wrong, he just somehow managed to like sort it out, or like he had something in the back of his pocket to like fix things.
Yeah,
He was always
like
really good at that.
Yeah, like when they wanted to shoot a music video and they needed like a really cool looking car, and then he happened to be friends with what was his name, the DJ
Johnny Etigan.
Yeah, DJ Etiken. So he's like, oh yeah, I know a guy who can lend us a car, and then he just goes to Etiken like, hey, can I borrow one of your sports cars for a shoot? Like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So it's like really fun, and also I like that their manager, he's really, really old school. He kind of feels like the people nowadays who talk about music from the 80s and how, oh, it was so much more authentic. He's that kind of person.
Yeah, he was fun. And then he had a backstory with, he had a girlfriend who also helped them with stuff like just getting the music together and getting them into concerts. And yeah, like they all had the stories, that good side stories, but the main story was really interesting. And the music was actually very good. And the other characters are really good. You had like Pieter, who was another contestant on the future X Factor show. Then you had Desmond, who was this guy who lived in a giant greenhouse. And I don't know if he was a guy, he was just a person. I don't think he had a gender. You had Carole's friend from Earth, Ezekiel, who was like a rapper trying to rebel, cause a movement. So yeah, that was really good. And it's made by, I think it's made by the guy who made Cowboy Bebop. Let me just check that.
Yeah, and while you check that, I'm just gonna add that Carole's friend from Earth is part of the reason that the government wanted to limit music, because he made raps about being an Earthlinger on Mars and like how society suppresses Earthlingers, and the government really didn't like that. They don't like protest songs.
That was another like overarching story arc. Yeah, it is the guy who made Cowboy Bebop, and another anime that will be on our tier list in this one. So yeah, I would put Carole and Tuesday.
I mean, it was definitely a beautiful art style. Like really, really beautiful art style. The backgrounds, like everything that was drawn and animated was just so beautiful. And like the way they did light and shadows and like everything. It was so clean. It was just so clean. And the storyline was interesting enough that you could follow it. But I do think like there will be some people who definitely won't be on board. And that's again personal taste.
Yeah.
Again with the whole slice of life, and it is a slower pace, and it's not like the conflict isn't very actiony, so it's a more leaned back, even though it's deeper themes like political issues. I do think for some people it definitely, I don't know if throw them off will be the right word, but like it takes a while to get into. I think even when we watched it and we were on episode 4, we were like, okay, will anything big happen soon, or is it just gonna be this the whole time? So I think I would put it on Painting the Roses Red. I think it's better than A Handsome Pick for sure.
Yeah, I liked it. It was really, really well animated. I like every character had a backstory, but it wasn't overbearing. For me, the main story was these two girls trying to be something for themselves, and coming from the lowest of the lowest, like living in a really rough area in a really small place and making something of themselves whilst having a job. It's quite an inspiring story. The story of like the government trying to stop music, or music that is a bit too political. It was good. It was a good storyline to add on, but it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was good actually. Maybe I'm over judging that. No, I did like it. I don't know if
I think it's just the pace, because the pace overall is a slower pace throughout. Like not so slow that you feel like you're watching for hours. It doesn't feel too long, but it is definitely a slower pace.
I was thinking Painting the Roses Red is wonderful, but I was going let's go Painting for the Roses Red. I think that's a fair analysis.
Yes. So Painting the Roses Red.
Yeah. So that was episode 1 of our second anime tier list. We've got 2 more episodes coming out, and hopefully we can get the next one out next week. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching our video.
If you liked our video, make sure to give it a like. And if you like what we do, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell.
See you guys in the next one.
Bye!